Soo-yeon, daughter of a convicted criminal. Everyone hated her. She was constantly bullied by her classmates. School was hard enough, but home was even worse. Her father would hurt her so badly that she often couldn't even get up. Her mother was so scared of him that she wouldn't intervene. She called the police and ratted him out. They arrested him. Then the detective saw Soo-yeon. He was shocked by how she was getting treated. Her mom even ignored her. Few days later, her father faced severe consequences. Soo-yeon was too numb to feel sad about her father's fate. For a moment, she felt a sense of relief. But the bullying at school didn't stop. Everyone disliked her. She had no friends. Until Jung-woo entered her life, a wealthy boy who had just returned from overseas. He didn't know anything about her past. He started talking with her and wanted to know her. It shocked Soo-yeon how he didn't know her. Seeing her reaction, he asked her if she was famous. Soo-yeon was overwhelmed and low-key happy by his actions. He was the only one who treated her friendly. Suddenly it started to rain. Jung-woo didn't want to get wet. Soo-yeon stared at him for a while and then went home to bring him an umbrella. Jung-woo was shocked and asked what about her. She said she didn't care to get wet. He thanked her with a smile and said he would return it the next day. On his way back home, Soo-yeon's umbrella broke. He started to get wet, but he was enjoying it. Soo-yeon was excited to see Jung-woo. She hurried to the park, but Jung-woo didn't come. She waited for a long time, but there was no sign of him. Jung-woo's grandfather had passed away that day, and he had to attend the memorial. Even though he'd never met his grandfather, he still wanted to pay his respects. Little did he know that his father, Han Tae-jun, didn't care about his father's passing. The only thing he cared about was money, to the point that he had taken his father's child, June, and pressured his stepmother to return the money his father had given her. He had even left dogs in June's room, and they injured the boy. Han Tae-jun held his stepmother captive, saying he'd release her and her son only if she returned the money. June managed to escape, and his caretaker found him and took care of him. The next day, Jung-woo saw Soo-yeon at school. He overheard other students talking about her. They said she was a criminal's daughter, just like her father. They wanted her expelled from school. Soo-yeon listened to them silently. Her eyes fell on Jung-woo, and she tried to approach him. But he stepped back, refusing her. He was scared. Yet, despite his behavior, Soo-yeon helped him when he was being bullied by other students. She stood up to them and scared them away, as it was raining. Soo-yeon approached Jung-woo again, offering him an umbrella. He rejected it, and asked her to stay away. Soo-yeon looked at him sadly. "I'm not a bad person," she said with a broken voice. "I would never hurt anyone." She walked away. Jung-woo felt guilty. He decided to find her. Searching around the neighborhood, he eventually saw her. Her state broke his heart. She was begging the victim's family for forgiveness. They cursed her and told her to disappear, just like her father. Soo-yeon's eyes met Jung-woo's. He looked at her sadly. She felt hurt and didn't want him to see her like that, so she ran away. Jung-woo followed her and found her in the park. He called her name, but she didn't respond. "Soo-yeon, the most popular kid in our neighborhood. Will you be my friend?" Soo-yeon, she shyly accepted. They became friends. Soo-yeon asked him to keep their friendship a secret at school because she didn't want anyone to hurt him because of her. He refused. He stayed by her side fearlessly. If anyone tried to harm her, he would stand up for her. He treated Soo-yeon like his closest friend. Little by little, their feelings grew. They were falling in love. One day, Soo-yeon's mother was surprised by an unexpected visitor. The detective who had arrested her husband was at the door, asking for forgiveness. He confessed that Soo-yeon's father wasn't the real culprit. They had arrested the wrong man. Soo-yeon's mother was shocked, but deep down she wasn't angry. She took Soo-yeon to the detective's house and asked if they could stay there temporarily, until they could find another place. The neighbors were tormenting them, and she didn't want to stay in that area. She told Detective Kim that he didn't need to tell anyone the truth, not even Soo-yeon. Detective Kim, feeling guilty, agreed to let them stay with him, even though his own daughter, Eunju, was upset. She thought her father wanted to marry Soo-yeon's mother. But eventually she accepted them. Soo-yeon was on her way to meet Jung-woo when she heard a loud noise. A young boy was trying to break the window of a nearby house. It was June. She approached him and asked if he was okay. But the boy ignored her, scared. Then Young Hyeme, the caretaker, arrived and asked Soo-yeon to leave. Soo-yeon left reluctantly. A few days later, however, she saw that house engulfed in flames. She worried about the boy and asked Jung-woo to help. Jung-woo broke down the door and rescued him, taking him to the hospital. When Hyeme learned June was in the hospital, she rushed there. But upon seeing Jung-woo, she hid. She recognized him. One day, Detective Kim saw Soo-yeon with Jung-woo, seemingly about to share a special moment. He quickly interrupted, scolding Jung-woo as if he were Soo-yeon's father. Then invited Jung-woo to dinner. That night, they all had a wonderful time. Mr. Kim treated both Soo-yeon and Jung-woo as his own children. Jung-woo's life wasn't much better than Soo-yeon's. His mother had passed away when he was young. His father and stepmother didn't care about him. Now, he was happy to have people like Mr. Kim and Soo-yeon in his life. But that happiness didn't last. He was taken against his will on his way to Soo-yeon's house. June's mother had orchestrated it to pressure Han Tae-jun by using Jung-woo's life. She wanted him to release her without giving back the money. Soo-yeon witnessed the kidnapping, but instead of running, she bravely stepped forward and asked them to stop. One of the kidnappers told the driver to stop. "She saw my face," he said. When Jung-woo's father learned he was kidnapped, he still refused to release June's mother. Hyeme waited outside the facility where June's mother was held captive. Suddenly, she received a call, and the news shocked her. June asked her what happened. "Your mother is gone." Jung-woo regained consciousness. Hearing Soo-yeon's voice, he was startled. He looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I wanted to help you," she replied. They tried to untie each other's ropes, but then one of the kidnappers entered. He looked intoxicated, and Jung-woo pleaded with him to let them go. But the man smirked. He pushed Soo-yeon to the ground and started harassing her. Jung-woo cried, helpless and unable to shout. He could only watch her cry. Another kidnapper entered and, realizing what was happening, fought with his partner. During the chaos, Jung-woo's hands came free. He was shocked. He saw the open door. He began to walk away. Soo-yeon called his name. He sobbed but didn't look back and ran. Jung-woo called the police for help, but his own father found him first. Jung-woo was relieved. He asked Han Tae-jun to save Soo-yeon. He said, "That bastard touched Soo-yeon." Han Tae-jun didn't care and asked him to leave, saying he would take care of it. Jung-woo wanted to stay, but Tae-jun slapped him away. When he found the place, it was empty. He ordered his men to burn it, not wanting any evidence left behind. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon left the place and was walking lifelessly on the snow. Suddenly she saw a car approaching. It almost hit her. Inside the car were June and his caretaker, Hyeme. Soo-yeon asked for help. At first, Hyeme wanted to get rid of her, knowing Soo-yeon had been taken along with Jung-woo. But she couldn't do it. They took Soo-yeon to the place where they were staying. June was happy to have Soo-yeon by his side. Mr. Kim and Soo-yeon's mother were looking for her. Mr. Kim discovered that Jung-woo was involved. He went to his house and tried to talk to him, but Han Tae-jun didn't allow it. On the other hand, Jung-woo wasn't himself. He regularly suffered panic attacks, desperately wanting to find Soo-yeon. The next day, Mr. Kim went to Jung-woo's house again. This time, he said he came to arrest Jung-woo. His father tried to stop Mr. Kim, but Jung-woo entered and told Mr. Kim to take him in. Mr. Kim didn't take him directly to the station. He stopped somewhere and asked Jung-woo to tell him everything. Jung-woo tried to remember as best he could wanting Soo-yeon found as soon as possible. A few days later, Mr. Kim found one of the kidnappers. He realized this man was the one who had harmed Soo-yeon. Enraged, he began to beat him, demanding to know where she was. The man lied, saying she was dead and that he had thrown her body in a nearby river. He lied because Jung-woo's father had paid him well to hide the truth. He feared that if the police found Soo-yeon, it would be disastrous for him and Jung-woo. But Mr. Kim didn't believe him and continued searching for Soo-yeon. The next day, Jung-woo received a call. He answered, overjoyed to hear Soo-yeon's voice. He tried to speak, but the call ended. Kimi had yanked the phone from Soo-yeon's hand, furious. She told June they should leave Soo-yeon behind, saying she'd be trouble. June refused. My mother said you need me to find that money. I won't come with you if you leave her. Then he turned to Soo-yeon and said, Look, they say you're dead. No one's looking for you. Everyone has given up on you. Soo-yeon was devastated. It was painful for her to hear that. On the other side, Jung-woo was happy just to hear Soo-yeon's voice. His dad came into the room, and Jung-woo started to tell him everything. His dad dismissed him as crazy. Jung-woo insisted, trying to explain, but Han Tae-jun slapped him. Jung-woo felt disappointed by his father's reaction. People were right about you. You only care about your money. You said you'd search for her, but you didn't. I'm leaving this house. His father didn't stop him. He didn't want him anymore. Jung-woo went to Mr. Kim and told him Soo-yeon was alive. He begged him to find her. Mr. Kim looked at him sadly. Yes, I promise I'll find her. Soon after, Mr. Kim was fired from his job. He needed help from some old friends to find Soo-yeon. He and Jung-woo went to them, seeking assistance. It didn't take long for him to locate where Soo-yeon was being held. He called Jung-woo, saying, I found the place. They're leaving. I'll call you later. Jung-woo was hopeful. But instead of good news, he learned that Mr. Kim was dead. He'd had an accident while chasing the car carrying Soo-yeon. From now on, I'll search for her. 14 years passed. Jung-woo became a detective, just like Mr. Kim. He continued searching for Soo-yeon, and also wanted to find Mr. Kim's killer. He didn't leave those kidnappers alone. He would meet them and bother them. He would beat Soo-yeon's attacker mercilessly, as if he wanted to kill him, but every time he stopped, thinking about her. After leaving his father's house, he moved in with Soo-yeon's mother and Eunji. 14 years ago, when Soo-yeon's mother first saw Jung-woo after the incident, she had struck him, telling him to die. But now they were like family. Soo-yeon left the country with June, going to Paris. They changed their names. Soo-yeon became Chewy and June became Harry. They lived like a family, depending only on each other. One day, June called Soo-yeon. I came back to Korea. Aunt is dead, but you don't need to come. Despite his words, Soo-yeon wanted to be by his side and return to Korea. Ha-yoon's death didn't seem natural, so the police were investigating. One of the detectives was Jung-woo. When he introduced himself to June realized this man in front of him was Han Jung-woo, the person Soo-yeon had told him about long ago, the one who had saved him from a fire. He was the one who had once stolen Soo-yeon's heart, the girl June loved. When Jung-woo was leaving June's house, he heard a familiar voice that froze him in place. It'll rain, it won't. It'll rain, it won't. It reminded him of Soo-yeon, who used to say that. He ran after the girl and grabbed her arm. Soo-yeon looked at him, shocked and scared. He just stared for a moment, then let her go and left, his mind in turmoil. Soo-yeon didn't recognize him but observed him intently. She later told Harry about the incident, and Harry felt relieved to learn she hadn't recognized who the detective was. But his relief didn't last. The next day they met again. Jung-woo's colleague called out his name, and Soo-yeon heard it. She whispered the name, and Jung-woo heard her whispering. Who are you? Say my name again. Who are you? Soo-yeon stared at him silently, until Harry stepped in, halting the encounter. Jung-woo and Harry talked about Harry's aunt's case, but Jung-woo couldn't resist his curiosity. He asked about the girl he'd just met. "She's my fiancée," Harry lied. "Are you interested in her? I don't like that." Soo-yeon played along. "I don't like it either. I love Harry a lot." She was leaving, but Jung-woo stopped her with another question. "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable, but you remind me of a friend. Your mannerisms are so similar to hers. How do you know that trick?" She was taken aback, unsure of how to answer, but Harry saved her with another lie. Jung-woo kept running into Soo-yeon as he investigated Hime's death. He found more similarities between Soo-yeon and Shui, growing increasingly suspicious. But Soo-yeon didn't want him to recognize her. She also despised him, wanting him to suffer. Once she invited him out for dinner, telling him to wait outside the restaurant, but stood him up, watching him with Harry from inside. Soo-yeon's attacker was released from prison. While he was out walking, a car hit him. It was Harry's car. Harry got out to check on him and called his lawyer. During the call, the man saw Soo-yeon and approached her. Soo-yeon recognized him, and a panic attack started. Seeing her distress, Harry pulled the man away. But not before he stole her phone. Soo-yeon cried uncontrollably as Harry tried to comfort her. The next day, the man called their house. Soo-yeon answered. "I want compensation. Tell your boyfriend to come to this address." Later that night, they found him dead in his bathtub. Jung-woo discovered the case and started investigating. In reviewing footage from the accident, he recognized Chui and Harry. He saw how Chui panicked upon seeing the man. Now he was certain she was Soo-yeon. He went to her. "I want to go on a date with you." Soo-yeon tried to ignore Jung-woo, but he grabbed her and started walking with her. She had enough and told him that if he wanted to date her, he had to take her to a luxury restaurant. There, Jung-woo said he wanted to play on the seesaw with her. He said he hadn't played on it all these years because Soo-yeon wasn't there. She had enough of his insanity and slapped him. He said he felt better now and that it was enough for the day. Jung-woo also found CCTV footage from the parking lot near that man's apartment. In that footage, he saw Soo-yeon. He was shocked. But he remembered Soo-yeon's words. "I would never hurt anyone." The police wanted to arrest Soo-yeon as a suspect, but Jung-woo volunteered to take her in himself. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon and Harry hosted a ceremony. Before the ceremony, Harry gave her a necklace and asked her to get engaged soon. When he tried to kiss her, Soo-yeon backed away. All the shareholders of Harry's company were invited. Jung-woo's father was also among the guests. Harry planned to strike a deal with him. Having secretly bought shares in the company under a new identity, it seemed like he was seeking revenge. Jung-woo arrived at the party and tried to talk to Soo-yeon, but she refused. Soon after, Jung-woo saw the police entering the venue. He told Harry he had to take Soo-yeon to the station. Soo-yeon was terrified and hugged Harry. Jung-woo was heartbroken but held himself together. He took her hand and led her away. The officers interrogated Soo-yeon, with Jung-woo staying by her side and trying to help. Though Soo-yeon was still bitter toward him and said that if she were Soo-yeon, she would kill Jung-woo first. Though Jung-woo was hurt hearing that, he said Soo-yeon would never kill anyone. The police couldn't find enough evidence and had to let her go. That night was a rough one for Jung-woo. He saw how Soo-yeon took Harry's hand and asked him to go home together. Soo-yeon's mother grabbed dinner for him. He started talking about his memories with Soo-yeon and cried. Soo-yeon also cried at home while Harry listened to her crying from outside the room. Soo-yeon's mother later discovered that Jung-woo had found someone resembling Soo-yeon. She went to the woman's house, and upon seeing Soo-yeon, immediately recognized her. She broke into tears, saying, "I'm your mother. Do you remember me?" Soo-yeon's eyes welled up, but she coldly replied, "Please enter the car." Her mother removed her shoes and sat beside her. Soo-yeon remained silent. Her mother looked at her and said, "Your beautiful skin shows you've had an easy life these past years. Your house reflects that you're educated and wealthy. I'm glad you've been well. I'm thankful." Soo-yeon began to cry and whispered, "I'm sorry." Her mother rushed to her, saying, "Don't say that. Why are you sorry?" Soo-yeon replied, "Mom, I don't want to be Soo-yeon anymore. I don't want to remember those days." Her mother stared at her for a moment and then said, "Okay, that's okay. You're right. Just stay like this. Stay happy." She quickly left the house. Soo-yeon ran after her, but her mother was already gone. Her mother wanted her daughter's happiness, but then thought of Jung-woo. What would he do now? She began to cry for him. That night, Soo-yeon's mother got drunk and asked Jung-woo to leave the house. Jung-woo thought she was mad at him and said she could hit him if she wanted, but he wouldn't leave. She couldn't hold back her tears and cried while Jung-woo hugged her. Then Jung-woo went outside to buy her some medicine. Soo-yeon was walking around the neighborhood but hid behind a wall when she saw him. She watched as he talked to a lamp, asking it to work properly. He complained that when Soo-yeon came back, she'd be scared if it didn't work. Then he went to the park where they used to play and started messing around while Soo-yeon secretly watched him. When he was singing Soo-yeon's favorite song, his eyes caught her. She got startled and ran away. Jung-woo followed her and secretly watched her. Unbeknownst to them, Harry was also watching Soo-yeon from afar as she sat alone, drinking. His gaze eventually landed on Jung-woo, who made a peculiar hand gesture Harry had seen Soo-yeon use before. Seeing this enraged him. After that, Soo-yeon came home. Harry hugged her and said she could leave for France in 10 days. Jung-woo, determined to find the real culprit, discovered it was a woman who worked as a cleaner at the police station. Her daughter had also been harmed by that man. When Jung-woo confronted her at her house, she realized he had figured it out. Before Jung-woo could react further, she shocked him. He lost consciousness. When he awoke, he said, "I don't want to ask you to spare me. Just let me hear Soo-yeon's voice one last time." "Eat this," she said coldly. The woman called Soo-yeon, and when she answered, Jung-woo spoke. "It's me, Jung-woo. Do you remember? Soo-yeon's house is 15 feet away from the streetlight that used to flicker. It doesn't anymore. I thought you need to know. I miss you." Then he lost consciousness again. Soo-yeon grew worried when she couldn't reach him. She called his friend, who told her he was missing. He was looking for the culprit, but now he's disappeared. Soo-yeon recalled something he had said. He said it's only 15 feet from my house to that streetlight, but that's wrong. She shared this with the police, helping them locate Jung-woo. Jung-woo survived. Soo-yeon waited outside his hospital room. When she entered, she found him shirtless and was taken aback. It was a humorous moment. She smiled, and Jung-woo, seeing her smile, felt his heart flutter. Jung-woo, determined to find the real culprit, discovered it was a woman who worked as a cleaner at the police station. Her daughter had also been harmed by that man. When Jung-woo confronted her at her house, she realized he had figured it out. Before Jung-woo could react further, she shocked him. He lost consciousness. When he awoke, he said, "I don't want to ask you to spare me. Just let me hear Soo-yeon's voice one last time." The woman called Soo-yeon, and when she answered, Jung-woo spoke. Then he lost consciousness again. Soo-yeon grew worried when she couldn't reach him. She called his friend, who told her he was missing. He was looking for the culprit, but now he's disappeared. Soo-yeon recalled something he had said. It's only 15 feet from my house to that pole. But that's wrong. It's 150 feet. She shared this with the police, helping them locate Jung-woo. Jung-woo survived. Soo-yeon waited outside his hospital room. When she entered, she found him shirtless and was taken aback. It was a humorous moment. She smiled, and Jung-woo, seeing her smile, felt his heart flutter. Soo-yeon overheard Eunji's conversation with Jung-woo. A single word from Eunji left Soo-yeon in shock. She mentioned that Soo-yeon's mother was angry at him for not coming home the past few days and was worried sick. Could it be that Jung-woo had been living with them all these years? That night, Soo-yeon's mother came to Jung-woo. She collected his belongings and asked him not to come to their house anymore. She believed Soo-yeon would never return and that Jung-woo needed to set himself free. Soo-yeon isn't coming back to us. We need to let her go and move on. Jung-woo was devastated. He sat quietly, staring at the wall. Soo-yeon, who had overheard, felt terrible for both of them. When Jung-woo caught her peeking at him, he asked, "Do I really have to move on?" She tried to run, but he stopped her, grabbing her shoulders. "Am I hurting you? Do you really want me to go?" She didn't answer. He hugged her tightly. But then, he remembered her mother's words. He let go of her. "Please leave," he said, closing his eyes. Soo-yeon, with tears in her eyes, performed the small magic trick he once taught her. Just forget the bad memories. When Soo-yeon came home, she found Harry sick on his bed. Harry was feeling insecure about what Soo-yeon had been doing recently. He hugged her and cried. The next day, Soo-yeon went to her mother's workplace. She started a conversation with her and asked if they could meet each other regularly. Though her mother didn't agree and said if she didn't want to come back home, then they'd better not meet because it would hurt Jung-woo. Jung-woo went to visit his stepmother at her workplace. He accidentally fell onto a bed placed there. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon came to meet Jung-woo's stepmother for a job-related meeting. As she looked around, her eyes suddenly fell on Jung-woo. She approached him and stared at him. Jung-woo noticed her. She tried to walk away, but he stopped her. "You know, back then when we were coming back from school you fell asleep. I was looking at you, but suddenly, our lips touched. It was our first kiss. I was shocked and went crazy thinking about it. I wanted you to know that. So don't be surprised. This isn't the first time," he said. After leaving the workplace, Jung-woo took Soo-yeon to the park they used to visit when they were younger. He was so excited that he didn't let go of her hand as they got out of the car, creating a funny moment. They laughed together before sitting on the swings and talking. Jung-woo opened up, saying how time had stood still for him until that moment. He felt a sense of relief being with her. Soo-yeon listened with teary eyes and replied, "Thank you for waiting for me and loving me despite everything that happened. Now I understand you also suffered a lot. I know when you left me back then it wasn't out of hate. You were scared." Jung-woo wanted to respond, but Soo-yeon continued, "But I can't leave Harry. He needs me. I have to go back to him. Let's leave." Jung-woo, not wanting her to leave, suggested, "Then, let's stay friends. Secret friends." He thought that if they stayed friends, Soo-yeon wouldn't feel the need to leave. They became friends. She found out that Detective Kim was killed while searching for her. It broke her heart. She confided in Jung-woo, promising, "I'll do my best to remember those days. Maybe then I can help you find the person who did this." Harry was annoyed about how Soo-yeon was getting close to Jung-woo. Soo-yeon told him about Detective Kim's death and said it was important for her to find his killer. Harry didn't care. Frustrated, he asked her to care about him too. He grew frustrated, and one day he hurt her. Grabbing her harshly, he said, "I'm tired of waiting. Just kiss me." Soo-yeon struggled to free herself and refused his demand. Frustrated, he pushed her. Despite his behavior, Soo-yeon chose to forgive him that one time. Harry was really important to her. He had been her only family all these years, but she could never love him as a man. The thing Harry wanted. Soo-yeon missed her mom. She went to her workplace. After seeing her with Jung-woo, she tried to leave, but Jung-woo's eyes caught hers. He ran after her and found her, then started chatting with her. He tried to grab her hands, but when he saw her wince in pain, he checked on her and found the bruise. Though Soo-yeon said it was an accident, he didn't believe her and said that if Harry hurt her again, he would come and take her. Harry's love for Soo-yeon was driving him to the brink. He would do anything for her, even harm others. He dealt with everyone who had caused Soo-yeon pain. Soo-yeon's attacker also met his end at Harry's hands. The night the elderly woman came to deal with the attacker, she placed him in a bathtub full of dry ice. However, she heard a noise and quickly hid. She then heard tapping sounds, like the distinctive clicking of women's heels. After the person left, she discovered that the attacker had been suffocated with a wet towel. When the old woman was arrested, she initially said nothing about the other killer, assuming it was Soo-yeon. She had seen Soo-yeon wearing high heels before, but one day, Jung-woo approached her and revealed that everyone involved in Soo-yeon's case was being eliminated one by one. Convinced that if Soo-yeon were responsible, Jung-woo wouldn't arrest her but instead protect her, the old woman confessed everything. Jung-woo met Harry at his father's company. They were walking and talking together when the tapping sound of Harry's cane caught Jung-woo's attention. He found it suspicious. Days passed, and Jung-woo kept searching for the truth. He eventually discovered that the person responsible for the crimes had a connection to his family. Jung-woo even went to his father's house to investigate. While he was there, he encountered the man and tried to catch him, but the man managed to escape. That man was working for Harry and assisting him in carrying out his plans. He was fiercely loyal to Harry, seeing him as a master figure. The man went to Han Tae-jun's house because Harry had heard from Jung-woo that Han Tae-jun was looking after a woman who seemed mentally unstable. Harry suspected that the woman might be his mother and wanted to confirm if she was alive. So he sent the man to investigate. The man told Harry that the woman looked like his mother. Now, Harry wanted to see her. He went to Han Tae-jun's house under the guise of discussing work. When no one was around, he began searching the house. And he found her, his mother. Harry was shocked and tried to reach her. "Mom, it's me, June." But the woman didn't recognize him. "Where's Han Tae-jun? Tell him to come." Harry began crying uncontrollably, unable to bear seeing her in that state. Soo-yeon, who had followed him, entered the room. She hugged him tightly, trying to comfort him. Harry was a mess. He got into his car and drove recklessly. Soo-yeon pleaded with him to stop and calm down. The other day, Soo-yeon had learned that Jung-woo's father had paid someone to lie about her death. She also had discovered a link between Harry's foot injury and Jung-woo's father. She knew Harry wouldn't let the man go. "Let's take your mother out of that house and leave. Let's go back to Paris," she urged. "With a mother who doesn't even recognize me?" Harry shot back. "Han Tae-jun is behind all of this. He ruined me and my mother's life." Jung-woo arrived. He had just discovered that Harry was the boy he had saved long ago. The same boy who had been in the car Mr. Kim had chased that fateful day. He approached their car and opened the door. "Let's talk," he said. But Harry refused. "You still have that attitude, kid," Jungwoo said sharply. Soo-yeon asked Jungwoo to give them some time. "So, he finally found out," Harry said. He began talking about the past, including the time he and Soo-yeon left the country. Something in his words caught Soo-yeon's attention. "You said you didn't remember those days. You lied all this time?" she asked, her voice trembling. Harry and Soo-yeon started arguing. "You knew my mother and Jungwoo were looking for me, but you hid it from me." Harry tried to justify himself, but Soo-yeon wasn't convinced and tried to leave the car. "I killed all those people who hurt you," Harry suddenly blurted out. Soo-yeon froze, staring at him in shock. "You wanted to erase all those bad memories. I killed them for you," Harry said. Soo-yeon was horrified. Before she could react, Jungwoo opened the car door, furious. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I don't believe what you said," Soo-yeon said, turning to Jungwoo. "Take me home. I want to go home." She left with Jungwoo, barely holding herself together. Soo-yeon and Jungwoo returned to the house. Her mother, worried about her, asked what had happened. Soo-yeon reassured her, but then her gaze fell on Eunji. She was reminded of how her father had been killed for her sake. Guilt weighed heavily on her. Eungi, seeing her state, said, "With Soo-yeon's return, my father's soul can finally rest in peace." She welcomed and let go the bitterness she had towards her for hiding her identity all this time. Soo-yeon stayed the night, spending time with her mother and talking with Jungwoo. She told Jungwoo how she was living all these years and what she was doing. They had a heart-to-heart. However, the next day, she decided to return to Harry. She couldn't abandon him in that state. She left a letter for Jungwoo, promising they would meet again soon. "But for now, I have to go. Harry needs me," she wrote, though Harry thought she had left for good. Soo-yeon returned to Harry's house. But something was off. The house was in disarray, and Harry was nowhere to be found. As she searched, her eyes landed on a hidden button on the wall. It had been concealed behind a picture of her and Harry for years. She pressed it, and a secret door opened. Inside, she discovered a room filled with monitors and microphones. It became clear that Harry had been controlling everything all along. As she stood there, the door suddenly closed behind her, trapping her inside. Through the surveillance feed, she saw Harry and Jungwoo's stepmother. The stepmother recognized Harry and called him June. They were talking. "Soo-yeon probably doesn't know that your mother was behind the kidnapping," the stepmother said. "Oh, you shouldn't have said that," Harry replied with a mischievous smirk at the camera. Soo-yeon, watching, grew increasingly worried. After some tense moments, the door finally opened. Soo-yeon rushed out, but what she saw terrified her. Jungwoo's stepmother was lying on the ground unconscious. Meanwhile, Jungwoo had arrested the man who had been helping Harry. During interrogation, the man made a shocking claim. "Lee Soo-yeon ordered me to do it." Jungwoo's phone rang. It was Soo-yeon. She claimed she had killed all those people, expressed bitterness toward Jungwoo, and hung up. However, Jungwoo was certain the voice was fake. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon found a recorded video. In it, Harry spoke and revealed his resentment toward her for leaving him. He told Soo-yeon that she was no longer just the daughter of a killer, but a killer herself. Jungwoo sensed something was wrong. He called Soo-yeon while driving to her. "Soo-yeon!" he shouted worriedly. "It wasn't me," she said desperately. "I know. Just tell me where you are," he replied. "I'm at Harry's house, and someone is dead here. He really did this," she cried. Jungwoo rushed to the house. When he found Soo-yeon, he ran to her and hugged her tightly. Moments later, the police arrived, intending to arrest Soo-yeon. Jungwoo stood his ground. "This is all Harry's plan. I can't let you arrest her," he shouted. His friend tried to reason with him, But Jungwoo refused. "Soo-yeon, take my hand. I won't leave you this time," he said. They ran away together. Jungwoo and Soo-yeon hid for a day. They spent the time talking, laughing, and crying together. Soo-yeon told Jungwoo how his dad had hurt Harry and paid those kidnappers. That day brought Jungwoo and Soo-yeon closer. Soo-yeon was no longer afraid of loving him. Soo-yeon began to embrace her feelings without doubting. Soo-yeon decided to go to the police station. Before leaving, she saw Harry. He asked her to come with him, but she rejected him and asked how he could kill someone with the same hands that once saved her. Harry got mad and said he didn't want her if she acted that way. Soo-yeon went to the police station. She courageously sat through questioning, bolstered by Jungwoo's support. Then she went home with Jungwoo. Harry missed Soo-yeon deeply. He wanted only her, no one else. Even when Harry found out his mother was dying, he didn't care to see her one last time. Meanwhile, Jungwoo's stepmother regained consciousness and revealed that it was Harry who had hurt her. A few days later, Jungwoo found evidence linking Harry to Mr. Kim's death. He had seen Detective Kim. Not wanting to lose Soo-yeon, he put a can under the brake of his car. Harry, now on the run from the police, planned to leave the country but wanted Soo-yeon by his side. His obsession with her was driving him over the edge. Harry rushed to Han Tae-jun. By then, Harry's identity had already been revealed to him. Harry demanded that Han Tae-jun bring Soo-yeon to him, threatening him with stolen money. "If you want your money back, bring her to me." Han Tae-jun complied, sending his men to Harry. Harry confronted Soo-yeon, attempting to forcibly take her away in a car. Jungwoo, however, did everything he could to stop it. Despite the emotional toll on both Jungwoo and Soo-yeon, they supported each other through those difficult days. Soo-yeon's mother also revealed that Soo-yeon's father was not a killer. A few days later, Soo-yeon was in her office, nervously holding on to a small box of rings. She was planning to propose to Jungwoo. "It's okay if the girl proposes first," she thought with a smile. But just then, Jungwoo walked in. Startled, she quickly hid the rings. After talking for a while, Jungwoo kneeled down in front of her. "Lee Soo-yeon, my first love, will you marry me?" Soo-yeon's eyes filled with tears as she exclaimed, "Yes." They hugged joyfully, and Soo-yeon confessed she had been planning to propose too. They promised to marry after the first snowfall. Both were incredibly happy. But their joy was short-lived. Jungwoo's father called Soo-yeon, asking to meet her. The police said it must have been a trap, but Soo-yeon still wanted to meet him. Despite Jungwoo's protests and pleas for her to wait, Soo-yeon went anyway. She believed that by cooperating, they could arrest Harry. She entered Han Tae-jun's car, and the two began talking. The police followed, but something went wrong, and they lost the car. Using a tracking chip he had given Soo-yeon, Jungwoo found her location. She was taken to the same place where they had been held captive years ago. When Jungwoo arrived, he found Soo-yeon and Harry sitting on chairs. Soo-yeon looked terrified as Harry taunted Jungwoo. "Look at this place, the one where you abandoned her that night." Soo-yeon started to panic as memories of that night resurfaced. Jungwoo, worried, tried to calm her down. He confronted Harry, saying, "Is this what you call love? You're hurting her." "Yes, I left her that night. I was scared. I haven't forgiven myself to this day. You've harmed so many people, but I wonder why you haven't harmed me yet. Is it because we're related?" Harry got overwhelmed by the question. Suddenly he winced in pain. His foot pain was killing him. He asked Soo-yeon to leave with him, using the walking stick she had once made for him. But then, he noticed the police outside. Soo-yeon and Jungwoo were startled. Harry then grabbed Soo-yeon and pointed the gun at her head. "If she's not mine, she won't be anyone else's," he declared. What Jungwoo said next enraged him. Even if you hurt her, we'll still love each other. Harry shifted the gun toward Jungwoo, but Soo-yeon stepped in between them. If someone must die, let it be me, not him. Jungwoo, I'll go first and wait for you. I love you. Harry, I like you so much, but please understand, this isn't love. Please don't hurt Jungwoo. Hurt me instead. Harry, frustrated and distraught, shouted, No, stop lying! In a moment of chaos, he pulled the trigger, but Jungwoo shielded Soo-yeon and was hit instead. Soo-yeon screamed, calling Jungwoo's name and crying desperately as she begged him to hold on. Harry, devastated, muttered, I would die for you too. Look at me. Just then, the police intervened and fired at Harry, incapacitating him. Both Jungwoo and Harry survived. For 10 days, Soo-yeon stayed by Jungwoo's bedside, caring for him. When he finally opened his eyes and whispered her name, she turned to him in shock. Smiling through tears, she hugged him tightly and asked him to say her name again. Later, Jungwoo, Soo-yeon, her mother, Eunji, his stepmother and sister shared a happy meal together. Jungwoo's stepmother expressed her desire to divorce Han Tae-jun, wanting a fresh start with her children. As laughter filled the room, Jungwoo revealed a surprise for Soo-yeon. He asked her to close her eyes and place something in her hand. When she opened them, she saw her official ID card with the name Lee Soo-yeon on it. Tears welled up in her eyes as she thanked him. Jungwoo met his dad, who was paying for his sins in prison. Jungwoo said he truly wanted to have a fresh start with him. His father tried to hide his happiness, but Jungwoo knew it was what he wanted too. Jungwoo and Soo-yeon visited Harry. Harry was suffering from dementia and was staying at the hospital. However, he soon had to face justice for his crimes. Soo-yeon spoke gently. My name is Lee Soo-yeon, while Harry stared blankly at her ID card. Jungwoo showed him a leaf and said, It's winter again. Harry took the leaf and smiled. His reaction shocked both Soo-yeon and Jungwoo. He even smiled at Jungwoo in gratitude. As they left, Harry watched them from the window. Soo-yeon and Jungwoo were walking when the falling snow caught their attention. It was the first snow of the season. Smiling at each other, they made their way to a church, where they finally got married. The final scenes emphasize how these three people's lives could have been different if the adults in their lives had behaved differently. None of them would have had to endure the suffering they had already faced.
Missing You. This melodrama will keep you engaged until the very end. If you're planning to watch it, consider this your warning for second lead syndrome. Yoo Sung-ho's performance will make you want to go and hug him. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Your support means the world. Thank you in advance. And bye.